All right, everyone, holding by Pirke Avos, Ethics for Fathers, as it is known. Again, want to welcome everyone, holding by Pirke Avos, Ethics for Fathers. We are in second chapter, right? Perk Bay, second chapter, Mishna 16. This is it's going to be part 20. Again, want to welcome everyone, holding by Pirke Avos, Ethics for Fathers. We're in chapter 2, Mishna 16. This is part 20. And we are still speaking about the evil eye. The name of Rabbi Yeshua, right? Rabbi Yeshua says an evil eye, evil inclination, and hatred of other people remove a person from this world. So we've been speaking about this idea about the evil eye, and we speak in the last number of weeks about Rabbeinu Yonah, and that Rabbeinu Yonah, it said, that the person's not happy, what they have. They see that a person has more money than them, better family than them, maybe better spouse than them, right? They have desires, right? They have desires what what their friend has. So we mentioned the idea of the fact that the person's jealous, right? Certainly could be a lack of emunah. Why isn't a person happy what God gave them, right? What do they think they are lacking? So this week's parsha, interesting enough, says Moy Rebbe, Rav Agon or Moshe Shlita should be well, and it brings down this week's parsha. The Torah says in book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 25, it says, "Avadatem es Hashem Elokeichem, berech es lachmecha ve'es meimecha." Right? It says you should serve God. You should serve the Lord your God, and He will bless you. He will bless your bread, your water. So he says, he asks a question over here, and he says there's a difference in the language, because the beginning it uses a plural language, avadatem, you served, right? You in the plural, you serve God, the Lord your God, and then it ends in a singular language, lachmecha ves meimecha, your bread, right? So your bread or your water, right? So he says, why is the beginning it's using the language, plural language, and why at the end of the verse it's using a language which is singular? So he says he's giving a homiletic interpretation, obviously not simple answer. And he says, at the beginning of the verse, what it's talking about, obligation to serve God, right? Each person, certainly each Jew, no question, got to serve God the same way, right? Got to keep His commandments, right? Even though we say there's 70 faces to Torah, okay, but essentially every Jew has to keep the mitzvahs, right? They have to keep what they're obligated in equally, right? They all have an equal obligation. So therefore, it says in a plural language that all Jews are commanded, right? They're all commanded in this to keep what God says, period, right? They have to keep what God says. At the end of the verse, what does it talk about? It talks about the blessing of God, right? It talks about the blessing of God, and not each person merits the blessing equally. One to his friend, right? It says, therefore, when it says singular language, what's coming to teach you? Person has to think about the blessing of God, right? For each person, right? That each person gets. The person should not look, let's say better, should not look at what his friend has, right? So that is the first thing, that we're not looking at what other people have, right? Which is kind of the theme over here. And that a person, right, if each person has an obligation, right, they have an obligation to serve God. So if they have an equal, let's say better, an equal obligation to serve God, then what they're looking at, what their friend has, shouldn't matter. They have all equal obligation, right? Nonetheless, the way God's blessing works does not work the same for everybody, right? That's he's saying. So he says further, he says it's found sometimes that a person serves God and he sees that his friends got more merit, got more rewards, more benefit in this world, right? He got more than me. And then he complains. He complains the ways of God, the ways of heaven. Complains. How can it be? My friend deserves more. How did he get more, more benefit in this world than me? So what does the Torah over here say? So the Torah here distinguishes and says the blessing. What's the language of the blessing? Blessing is singular language, right? Because it says, Uberach es lachmecha v'es meimecha. This blessing is going to bless your bread, your water. So very good. Singular. Why? Why is the end of the verse in singular? So he says to teach you that what a person gets, the reward that they get, a person should look at the reward of his friends, because God himself knows the reward that's fitting for each person. That's fitting for every person. And therefore, each one has to look at what they have. Right? Essentially, not looking what anyone else has. So this is a similar thing. In other words, if God's going to dictate what everyone's going to get, and there's an obligation to serve him, right? There's an obligation to serve him. Everyone's got an obligation to serve him, right? Everyone's got the same obligation, right? By the Jewish people, women are not bound by mitzvahs, bound by time, okay. But essentially, it's the same obligation to serve God. So if it's the same obligation to serve God, then why is someone looking at what someone else has? In other words, God's giving the blessing, whatever the blessing is, to each person. So if God's giving that blessing to each person will get what they deserve, what's coming to them. Right? Each person will get what they should. Someone else has more. Someone else seems to have better. Right? It's the way it looks. Right? It's the way it looks. Nonetheless, a person will complain. A person will say, it's not fair. Why should they have this? Why should they have that? Why am I lagging? Why? And it could be, again, let's say it has nothing to do with us. Right? No one wants to say it's because of what I do. Right? Everyone's very quick to say, well, my soul that has to go through it. Right? Maybe. Right? It's my soul that has to go through it. Or, I just have to suffer that way. Whatever. But nobody wants to take responsibility. No one's going to say, well, maybe they're doing things better than you. Right? Maybe they're holier than you. Maybe. But we want to look at ourselves in a good way. Nobody wants to say, I got a problem. I have issues. Maybe God's dealing with me in a different way. No one wants to say that. Right? Certainly no one wants to say that. They want to say I'm okay. They want to say the other person, is at fault. I'm okay. So, the obvious question would be, if we're doing everything that we should, so how come we're not all wealthy? Why are we lacking things in general? Why do we have an art? Because everyone has trials. Everyone has trials. Everyone goes through things, whatever it is. You'll say, this person doesn't pray half as much as I do, doesn't work half as hard as I do. You don't know. You don't know what's going on in a person's heart. You don't know what they do in general. But okay, let's say for argument's sake, that's true. So obviously they're getting more because God wants them to have more. Why? Any number of reasons. Right? But that doesn't matter. Right? This is exactly the point. It doesn't matter. Nobody wants to look at themselves in the mirror. Nobody wants to say, maybe I'm not okay. Maybe I'm not doing enough. I mean, we could all, it's very easy. We could all say that, right? We're not, the Chofetz Levavos says, duties of the heart, he says many times, we don't do a quarter of what we're supposed to do. We don't do half of what we're supposed to do. Is it really, any surprise that we don't have it easy? Or easier? Could be a lot worse. God wanted to, as we always say. But again, a person would take stock of their lives. And every night before they go to sleep, they think about how they dealt with others, interpersonal relationships, how they prayed, how they ate, what different things they did during the day in service to God. So as we always mention, how many are going to succeed? How many are going to give themselves a passing grade or a good passing grade, right? How many people are going to do that? Now, again, you can't live in the past. We always say, because even, a person, does things wrong or whatever. We want to look at ourselves as being good. Nobody wants to look at themselves as being bad. Right? Even if we make mistakes, we can make serious mistakes. Or aren't we the first ones to justify it? Of course I spoke badly against this person. They had it coming. Right? They had it coming. Look what they did. Well, let's say, in that case, it's permissible to speak Lashon Hara against them. Right? It's permissible to speak badly against them. Okay. Even if it is, says the Chofetz Chaim, I have to go through certain conditions in order to speak Lashon Hara. And even if you meet those conditions, let's say, Chofetz Chaim says, very complicated. Who says 100% you met those conditions? Who says? Maybe you slipped up on one of them, you're not really sure, whatever. But you say, I have a right to say it. I want to vent. Okay. So where's the person's emunah? I get it. People vent all the time. I hear things all the time. People vent. Some, I would say, more legitimate than others. Right? Nonetheless, some people, I'm certainly not going to say everybody, there are some people out there, I'm not going into statistics, how many and whatever, but there are some people who say, I'm okay. I'm working hard. And I'm trying. This isn't fair. I don't deserve this. Now, supposedly they're God-fearing. I say supposedly because if you're really God-fearing and you really believe in God and He runs the world and He's in charge, you don't have a question. This shouldn't be a question. You're going to say, but it's so hard and this, that. You're right. We're not denying that. I hear it all the time. Communities this and people that. And people say this and people do that. It's true. 100% it's true. So you're going to say it grates on a person. Makes a person feel bad. Where's our perspective? Where in the world is our perspective? This is why we always say we live in a cream puff generation. Right? We live in a cream puff generation. Because we think things are coming to us. And that we deserve. We deserve better. Now, let's analyze. Most of the world lives in Sodom, lives in a cesspool. Right? That's the world we live in today. Now, that being the case, you'll say, I'm doing better than that. Okay. Let's say it's true. Let's say for argument's sake it's true. Now, God's going to look at you in a different way. God may judge you more harshly now because you're holding somewhere in the world. You understand how the world works, in a much better way. Just like the Korban Aron says, book of Leviticus chapter 10, chapter 11, right? By the death of Nadav and Avihu, Korban Aron says, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh brings him down, that he says, why did Nadav and Avihu die? So, a lot of reasons the Gemara potentially gives. But says Korban Aron, he says they were close to the king, very close to the king, and someone who does something even minor, if you're very close to the king could say, you look better without a head. Right? You look better dead than alive. Because if the ball carrier, the water boy, whatever, mailman did something wrong, okay, king's got his lackeys. King's got his lackeys to deal with him. If it's someone second in command, if it's the vice president who does something even if it's not so egregious, the president looks at him and says, what are you doing? You're the face of this company. You help running the company. Right? You're second in command. You can't be doing this. Can't make such a mistake. Now, that means he's going to get fired? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, but might get severely penalized. Because if someone down the line did something wrong, okay. Right? Depending on their position, depending on their stature. So the president, the king will deal with them in a certain way. But if you're one of the higher ups, you're next in line. You're very close to the president, to the king, whatever you want to call him, whoever it is, then the punishment's more severe. Someone's going to say, but I'm still working on myself. I'm still working in progress. We all are. Very good. It's payback. 100% payback. So what's with this isn't fair? When someone says this isn't fair, that's a lack of emunah. That 100% is a lack of faith and belief in God. It's clear. Because they're not looking at the bigger picture. As if to say, I'm God's gift to the world, I don't deserve this. Now, if you play back the video of that day, of that week, you're going to say the same thing? Honestly, if you were God himself, right? Put on my funny George Burns glass, my funny mustache, and look down and say, come on, this is the way you serve me? You can say, what do you mean? I pray 3 times a day. I work hard on prayer. God says, good. Right? Very good. But I saw you like a number of times just spaced out. Your mind was somewhere else. Let me show you where your mind really was. So you're going to say, you should have mercy. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Yeah, but you're supposed to uphold what I say. You're supposed to be careful what you say, right? I'll speak about that tomorrow. The book of Leviticus. You're supposed to be careful. Here you lapsed. Here you didn't care. Here you wasted time. Yeah, you don't have a good excuse, right? God's saying. They don't have a good excuse. Well, you said I wanted to chill, life is hard. Let me just kick back. Let me sip my pina colada for a few minutes. A few minutes. Then it becomes half an hour. Then it becomes an hour. Wasted time. Everybody according to their level. But when a person wants to open their mouth and they want to say, this isn't fair, I deserve better, think. Think before you say it. Think. Are you really holding where you should be? Are you really doing everything you should be? And even some people say things against us and do things against us. God's using them as a stick. And you can say, this is disgusting, that's disgusting, I can't believe a person said this or did that. Or okay. You're the subject of them. Yeah? But who sent them? It's like the guy falls off the cliff, right? As Rav Noah Weinberg said, who threw you off the cliff? He saved you. But who threw you off the cliff? Come on, are we that naive? Or are we that weak? Yeah, it's weakness. Absolute weakness. Everything God does is good. Mention many stories, things that look bad turn out good, and things that are good seem to turn out bad. They don't know how it's going to turn out. You don't know how it looks. We think we do, but so many things we don't know. So many things. So something is directed at us. The Chofetz Chaim says the end of the gate of taking self-accounting. He says there are 30 ways to take self-accounting. The last one, he says, you look in the world, and you got to realize it's an extremely important thing. You got to realize it's only you and God in the world. You and God in the world. In other words, nothing good or bad can happen unless God wants it to. Right? No person in the world, man, female, anybody else, can do anything good or bad to a person, to you, let's say, unless God wants them to. And God's using them to send a message. So really, it's you and God living in the world, one-on-one. So then the Chofetz Chaim asks the question, and that is, if I'm only living with God, right? Everything revolves around me because as the Mishna says, the world is created for me, i.e. for me and no one else. Very good. Since the world's created for me, what do I need other people? Or can't I just go live in my cave? Can't live somewhere else. Go live, I don't know. Go live in an ashram somewhere, which would be forbidden because of idolatry. But, sit somewhere just meditating all day. Saying, you have no contact with the world. Absolutely no contact with the world. So that the Chofetz Chaim says forbidden. Absolutely forbidden. Why? Because he says in the gate of abstinence, he makes very clear, people are going to say, look how pious I am, look what I'm doing. And they have no contact with people or the world. They're living in some mountain somewhere by themselves. He goes, that's not piety. That's not being righteous, it's being a hermit. Being by yourself. Right? The Rambam says, in the laws of repentance, he says there are 24 things to stop a person from proper repentance. One of them is, Yeporish min hatzibur. You can't separate yourself from the community. You have to be part of the community. You got to be with other people. Maybe sometimes better not to be around people. Good. Bad influences, all that. I can speak about that till tomorrow. Right? But nonetheless, right? Nonetheless, what would I say? You got to take responsibility. Can't look at what someone else does because it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If, as the Chofetz Chaim says, we don't do what we're supposed to do, quarter, half of what we're supposed to do, don't you think, right? Don't you think it could be a lot worse? Could be a lot worse. 100% could be a lot worse. But we don't think that. Why don't we think that? Because we don't want to think we're bad. We don't think we do bad things. We're very good at justifying what we do. We're not perfect. God understands that. But don't you think if you have greater responsibility, you got to be more careful? You got to be more careful. There, someone asked, but I'll just deal with this now. Someone asked, explain living for the moment. Right? Live for the moment. Yeah, live for the moment. Eat, drink, and marry, lest tomorrow I die. Because people don't care what happens tomorrow. People aren't thinking what the repercussions are. I live for today. Tomorrow's another day. Because I'm only here to satisfy my body. Right? Only here, satisfy my body. Okay. The Chofetz says in Shar Avodas Elokim, gate of serving God. And it makes clear the soul's at a big disadvantage. Huge disadvantage. Time a baby's born, all it's doing is getting benefit from this world. And it comes from the dust of the four corners of the earth. That's how man was created. Stuffed in a body, made a body, very good. The soul goes in the body. Soul doesn't have a chance. Right? Spoke about this last week. Soul doesn't have a chance to shine. Right? Only through Torah. Okay. Torah has the ability to purify. Good. Has that ability. But think about it. Every second of every day, from the time a child's born, it's about getting benefit from this world. How in the world can Torah help that? Fight against it. It goes against everything the intellect stands for. So it comes on the Chofetz Chaim and says there's an antidote. The antidote is Torah. Very good. Torah has that ability to purify, sanctify, through the mitzvah. By keeping what God says. By fasting when we're supposed to fast. By praying when we're supposed to pray. These things elevate the body. Elevate the soul, which will elevate the body. Now, there are different levels of prayer. There are different levels. 100%, there are different levels. But even in a basic level, isn't a person, when they pray and they're subservient to the one and only God, so aren't they showing they want to be the right path? Aren't they showing they want to do the right thing? Yes. Aren't they showing, their subservience? Yes. Does that have effect on the body? It should. But what's the obvious thing that tracks? It's evil inclination, right? Which you haven't got to the evil inclination yet. Next part of the Mishnah, right? But the evil inclination comes and says, yeah, you want to pray, great. You want to do this, great, but it takes you away, distracts you. And it's very good at its job, doesn't need me to agree. It's very good at distracting. Because how come we're not focused? When it comes to prayer, why do we think about other things? Why do we get distracted? Right? It would be very depressing there. Because the Arizal, famous Rabbi Zikuria of Kabbalah fame, right? One of the biggest Kabbalists ever in the history of man. All right, major commentary on the Zohar. Right, on Kabbalah, he says, very simple. Why would a person get distracted? Because his body's full of sin. When we think about other things, why we're supposed to be praying. And again, people say prayer always needs to be strengthened. True. It's hard to always focus. True. But why? Prayer needs preparation. Can't run into prayer. Right? Many commentaries say you got to take a few minutes. Prepare for what you're doing. You're standing in front of the King of Kings. It used to be, the Gemara says, the early Hasidim, the early pious ones take an hour in preparation. An hour to prepare for prayer. They would pray, and it would take them an hour to come back to this world. An hour to come down from this world. Okay, we're not holding it. Right? 100%. Right? 100%. We're not holding, an hour in each direction. Right? We'll say we don't have time. Right? We certainly don't have time. Okay. So you'll tell me, very good. But you got to prepare. 100%, you got to prepare still. Even if it's for a few minutes. Even if it's just to regain your thoughts. That's why a person shouldn't run into prayer. We're not a machine. You got to calm down, you take off your coat, you relax a little bit, but you think about what you're doing. An hour, I think people go nuts for an hour. Even 5-10 minutes. Just think about what you're doing. Not too much to ask. Because you're given a golden opportunity. The golden opportunity is to pray. The golden opportunity is to give thanks to where it deserves to go. That's the golden opportunity. Now, people are going to say, I've been to synagogue and people talk, and I don't care what people do. Doesn't matter what people do. See, there's another problem. People make excuses. They'll say, wow, these people were talking this. Okay, so move somewhere else. Sit somewhere else. Don't sit there. And if this happens every week, go somewhere else. Find another place to go. You say that's the only place to go. Okay. It's a problem. Some places it's a problem. Lack of decorum. Okay. Because most people don't know what they're doing. You tell me they're there to pray. Okay. Yeah. So if they're there to pray, why aren't they praying? Why are they talking? Right? I was in a synagogue once. Mentioned this story before. Someone tells me, oh, you want to speak to the doctors? They sit over here. The lawyers, they sit over here. Sports fans, they sit over here. And I said, people want to pray? Where do they sit? Bad joke. True story, though. Definitely true story. So you say prayer is hard, okay? But it's an opportunity. 100% an opportunity. Now, a person will say, I work on my intention. I work on my prayers. I work on this. I work on that. I work on the other thing. I'm working so hard, I'm getting nothing. Worse, right? Worse things are happening. There's a good omen. Someone wants either to find, a spouse or livelihood, that a person says every day, Pirke Avos, right? Speaks about, all these animals in different verses corresponding to them, whatever. So it's supposed to be good for It's supposed to be good for what? It's supposed to be good for livelihood. And it's supposed to be good for, what do you call it? Finding a prospective marriage partner. So this person says, my financial situation is getting worse. They haven't found a marriage partner, right? A suitable marriage partner. Now, that might have changed. Don't know exactly where it's going yet, right? That might have changed. But they say livelihood is worse. But they said, what do I do? I told them, keep doing what you're doing. But all these things, understand, they're not simple formulas. If I do this, this will happen. Things are not automatic, right? They're not automatic. If God wants to open up the floodgates, he will. If he doesn't, no matter what you do, won't happen. It's not going to change. But people think, I've done this for 40 days, it didn't work. So keep doing it. You don't live in the past. You keep doing the best of your ability. Doesn't work. You keep trying, right? Someone will say, I'm fed up. I'm angry. This should change. Yeah, it should. But why does the God want it to change? So I'm not God, so I can't answer for him. But obviously he doesn't want it to change. Why not? Maybe he wants more prayer. Maybe he wants more depth. Maybe he wants you to change something. Show something dramatic. Right? Self-sacrifice. Huge self-sacrifice. That you weren't willing to do, now you're willing to do it. That'll open up doors. Seen that? We've seen that. Some people. Things that really were very hard to do. And God opened up doors both ways. In spiritual terms and in financial terms. Now, it doesn't mean, it's going to be great after that. Right? Things open up, beautiful, whatever, and then a person can still struggle. Okay. So God opens up the floodgates or he doesn't. It's dependent on what we do. That's it. Depends on what we do. And again, the way we look at things. As we mentioned, something looks bad, a person gets, let off from their job or something happens, it looks bad, but in the end, it's not bad. Right? We mentioned last week the story. Right? The guy lost, a horse ran away, had no way to make a living. And then this horse brings back 4 other horses. And then, that looks good. And then what happened? He had a son that, went on one of the horses and the horse threw him and he, broke both his legs. That looked bad. But then, Russians came, take him to the army. He was laid up. So that was good. Right? We told the number story. What looks good? What looks good? What looks good isn't good. And what looks bad isn't bad. Yeah? It can turn out just the opposite. 100%. Right? 100%. Right? Depends how it looks. We'd rather look at anything. That's the honest truth. People say this, people say that, could be true. Could very well be true. But we have no prophets today. We know there are certain things that God despises. Right? What's one of them? Idolatry. Clear. What's another one? Immorality. So Victor Miller, bless the memory, a few weeks back, in one of the parshas a few weeks back, Victor Miller said, he was talking about the Holocaust, destruction, the Jewish people. And one of the things he asked was the disgusting way women were treated. And like, dehumanized. One thing, they take men, strip them down, this and that. Okay, it's embarrassing enough. Worse for a woman. Embarrassment, worse for a woman. Right, let's say. So he said, what's going on? Again, I'm not saying this is the answer. Right? Possibly an answer. What did he say? He said women were promiscuous. Women were immodest. Brought a lot of proof to it, doesn't matter. Women were immodest. Jewish women were immodest. So we believe beyond the shadow of a doubt that there's measure against measure. In other words, God punishes measure for measure. You're going to say, where's the measure for measure? There it is. To a very high degree. You'll say even disgusting degree. What these barbarians did, and they were barbarians. And they were part of Amalek, Yamach Shemam V'Zich. May their name be blotted out, may they rot wherever they are. They're guilty 100%. But what possibly caused it? Says Rav Victor Mill, you know what caused it? Or possibly caused it? Again, we're not prophets here. But he says, if they were immodest, and they're promiscuous, let's say, then it's going to be serious payback. So if they're stripped of their human dignity in that way, then they must have done something to their bodies to deserve it. Now, no one wants to tell that to a Holocaust survivor, because essentially we don't know. We don't know. I'm saying maybe maybe it's the reason. Could be other reasons. Could be many other reasons. But the idea is, if they're immodest and they use the body in the wrong way, don't you think at some point God's going to get ticked off? They don't repent, and God's going to punish them measure for measure. In other words, you don't care about modesty? God's going to say, okay, I'm going to use you like a dish rag. Modestly. Could be. Not saying that's the answer. It's possible. So, Rav Victor Miller says nothing happens for no reason. He brought other proofs as well for other things. Why they happen in certain ways. Right? I must read. He wrote a book. He wrote a book on, response to the Holocaust. Right? This is part of his response. But he wrote a book on that. So again, it's hard to know. It's hard to know for sure. We're just pointing out what went on. What went on. He said, don't you think, intermarriage was all-time high. They went on vacation, they went partying, they did this, they did that, and then, the worst thing happened. So the measure for measure is what they did. In the rebellion against God. And God says, no one protested, no one said anything. Maybe it wouldn't have worked, maybe it wouldn't have changed anything. Okay, it doesn't matter. Right? The fact is sometimes, as we mentioned many times, you have to protest, you have to say something. But all these communities being wiped off the face of the map spiritually. Yeah, back in Lithuania, that you had, you still had yeshiva students there, and you're treated miserably by secular Jews. Walk in the store, they get up the line, they no, go back to the line, go to the back of the line. They're humiliated by their own people. I don't think it's going to be payback for that. That's why, Rabbi Son spoke about his mother, that she only wanted someone sitting and learning. It was unheard of 80 years ago. Unheard of. Back in the day. Now, the yeshivas and girls' schools became very, very strong, right? Over the years, over the last 50 years, 60 years, right? So you have, girls that are, thank God, being brainwashed to marry people sitting and learning for however long, after they get married. And want to marry someone who keeps Torah mitzvahs at a high level. It's unheard of years ago. Maybe it's only for the elite, this and that, but people were leaving in droves. In droves they were leaving. So with all that, Victor Miller says, is it any wonder God took out his wrath? On European Jewry? He gave a whole list of reasons, but anyway, that's not really the point. Right? The point is, we ourselves, and we don't always understand this, what the measure for measure is. But there is measure for measure. And at the same time, we're not perfect by any stretch. Person should think, even if anything happens, even if it's negative, they have to be thinking, I'm the cause of it. The other person, they do something against us, they say something against us, they are guilty 100%. They have free choice. Because we always say, they're a lot of messengers. Question is if we get the message. Yeah. And even if, we're not going to get into politics, right? But I don't think there's any question. President of the United States today is the greatest friend Israel's ever had, plus infinity. Not even a question. Not even a question. You can say whatever you want about his character or other things, right? Not even a question. But you know what? The dollar bill does not say in Trump we trust. And people forget that. We got good friends in Washington, this and that. They can turn it anytime. Saw that during the Holocaust. One of the main things we learned during the Holocaust is you never, ever, ever trusted men. Can't trust in man. My senator, my congressman, my this, my that. You got to do ishtadlus. You got to put your best foot forward, 100%. No one disagrees. But that's not where the salvation comes. Not where the salvation comes. The salvation comes from God himself. You can't say, well, I'm putting my best foot forward. That's what you have to do. But where does the salvation come from? Doesn't come from my action. Because a lot of times, salvation will come in a place you never expected. That's usually the case. 100% that's usually the case. So, a person has to keep that in mind, right? So here the question is, live for the moment. How are you living the moment? How does a person live only for the moment? Because they have no other life. They want to live for their benefit, for their enjoyment right now. Eat, drink, and marry, lest tomorrow I die. That's it. That's what people want. Very hard to fight against. The only way to fight against it is Torah. But you got to be steeped in Torah. There, someone asks, do I own a phone? Of course I own a phone, right? There are people that don't even have phones. Okay, but I don't have a smartphone, right? If so, what type of phone? It's a stupid phone. Can't text on it. Can't do anything on it. Except make phone calls. That's it. Yeah? So there are some people who will not even have that type of phone. Because, might lead to texting, might lead to this, might lead to that. What if someone needs to get a hold of you? Good. Right? Very good. Right? Some people won't have a phone at all. Okay. But most people, right? Certainly in the States, most people, even Orthodox Jews, have a smartphone. Very, very hard to find someone who doesn't have one. Even by kids. And that is a huge danger. Huge. Now, it's very convenient. 100%. Comes in handy a lot. Many things comes in handy. It's a time bomb. It's an absolute time bomb. You have people today, Orthodox kids, that one of their, evil inclinations is to text on Shabbos. Now that's something I couldn't even imagine. First of all, I don't have a phone that texts. Second of all, everyone has their own evil inclination, whatever it may be. But like texting on Shabbos, of all days, you can't do one day without texting. So I know someone says, yeah, that's this generation. You can have from the best families, they're addicted. They are addicted. Right? So the only way, I'm not saying have no phone, right? But get rid of it. Get a regular phone. If you need to go somewhere, whatever, you get something that you only get Waze on. If you need to go somewhere. Everything else, yeah, it's a big distraction. It's an absolute huge distraction. And as we mentioned many times, see, the evil inclination has it very easy today. Very, very easy thing, because you have this thing in the palm of your hand. It's addicting. Listen, even if a person doesn't have it, a person has a computer, it can also be addicting. Even if you're doing work and whatever, you can get sidetracked, sure. Right? 100%. That's at the end of the day, yeah, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing. And there are stories of people in business. People in business like, real heroes do not have smartphones. That's when it be made easier, this, that. That's not worth the risk. There are other ways to do things. Now you tell me it's inconvenient. Okay. Even if it's inconvenient. Even if it's inconvenient. These things are addictive. 100%, they're addictive. So I mentioned many cases for why it happened and why Hashem lifted his hands. Yeah, and Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah. Realize one thing. Let's make one thing very clear. When something happens, there's been a decree on Rosh Hashanah. Right? There's been a decree on Rosh Hashanah. If enough tshuva, repentance, has not been done, that does not get rescinded. Yeah? It doesn't mean what they did 10 days later is the cause. See, people make that mistake. See? People are very quick to say what happened October 7th. It was a festival. It was Shabbos. There was a Buddha there, right? And all that, right? But no rabbi, no gadol, no Torah giant came out and said that's the reason. It wasn't good. No one denies it. It wasn't good, but there was a decree. There was a decree that was made on Rosh Hashanah that did not get overturned. Not by the 10 days of repentance, not by Yom Kippur. It was a horrific decree. No question. And what the people were doing was bad. Good. It was bad. No one disagrees. But nobody came out and said that's the reason. Nobody. There was a divine decree. And that divine decree did not get overturned. Now, something that happened here the other day, pretty amazing, that there were 5 bombs that went off on buses in central Israel, and planted by Arabs, of course. And most of the, a lot of the bus drivers happen to be Arabs as well. But it doesn't matter. What happened? These bombs were supposed to go off 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, they were set by people in quote-unquote the West Bank. Right? Not from Gaza. From the West Bank. So again, we're not going to get into politics. I'm just pointing out that they wanted these bombs to go off at 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, they set the times wrong. Obviously, God had them set the times wrong. And when did they go off? 9 o'clock at night. When no one's on the bus. Absolute miracle, but that's not even the whole story. Right? As things developed, these things are going to go off, and then it's going to be an influx, just like on October 7th from Arabs in the West Bank, to make a massacre like they did then. And the whole thing stopped because buses never, because people weren't killed. Didn't happen. Right? They got the wrong time. They set the wrong time. It was an absolute miracle. Absolute miracle because of what was supposed to be with that, and how many people should have died, God forbid, and then what was supposed to happen after. But it didn't happen. Right? It didn't happen. Now, what do you say about that? So you say that there was a divine decree. There should have been a lot of people killed. Let's say that was the plan. That was the plan. Yeah, and God said no. And he overrid it. Now, this is already decreed by Rosh Hashanah. So what happened? Why didn't it happen? God overrode it. Why didn't he override October 7th? Can't answer. He didn't. These people were guilty. For whatever they were guilty for, don't know. Whatever their souls had to go for. But there was a divine decree. Sometimes divine decrees can go one way or the other. See by the story of Purim. It's supposed to be annihilation, and the decree got overthrown. Now, it could have been all these people should have been killed. And there was a reason why they should have been killed. That's not the topic here. Nonetheless, it got overthrown. The decree was overridden. Okay. But in other cases, you see absolute destruction. Decree was made. The decree was made. No way to get around it. So nobody knows. Nobody in the world knows why, when, where. Nobody knows. We can only see after the facts. Right? We can only see after the fact. But, it's a hard thing. Very, very hard thing. Someone there asked what to do with this. Someone there asked if a person cannot shower. As a result, your body's covered in tumor. Shower's not going to help. You're talking about cleanliness, right? Not impurity. Two different things, right? But in general, I would say like this: if a person, if you're talking about impurity, then going to the mikveh, then go to the mikveh, right? If you can't get to the mikveh and you want to go pray, so go pray. Doesn't take away from anything. If you're talking about physical odor, then I would say don't go pray. And what if it happens that, you come into Shabbos, you don't have time to take a shower? Yeah. Should you go to synagogue? So I say, put on deodorant, whatever you can do. You can't take a shower. You can't take a shower. Yeah. Again, there's no mitzvah to pray if you smell, obviously. Right? That you got to take care of. The impurity is a totally different issue. Two totally different issues. Yeah, the impurity, you go to the mikveh for impurity. It only takes off a certain level anyway, but, it doesn't fix all impurity. Because if it would, we'd be able to go on the Temple Mount and do other things, but you can't, because it doesn't fix that. It doesn't heal that, right? Showering does not take away impurity. Impurity is a totally different thing. Now, if you tell me putting enough water on is like going to the mikveh, that might be a different issue, right? That might be a different issue. Okay. But there are two different things here. Essential. There's impurity and there's odor, there's body odor. Two different things. Two totally different things. Now, the time is ticking, it's getting close to sundown, a person can't take a shower. So you do whatever you can to smell good. Okay. Is that going to take away the problem? Somewhat. If it takes away the smell, good. Impurity? It's not going to help you. Why is that going to help you? But you got to pray anyway. Right? Now, some people, mostly Hasidim, will go to the mikveh every day for extra purity. Okay. But again, that only takes off certain things anyway. Right? And what if you don't? Most Ashkenazic Jews and Sephardic Jews don't go to the mikveh every day. Maybe they go before Shabbos. Maybe they go before a holiday. Before Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah. Okay, I get it. But they don't go any other time. Right? So you can say, well, those people have all this impurity. We're all impure. 100% we're all impure. And if you didn't get to the mikveh, can you pray? You can pray. You're allowed to pray. Body odor is a different issue. You want to talk impurity? That's the case. That's the case. There is a question. If a person had a seminal emission, guy had a seminal emission, right? Let's say, either that or, is with the spouse or whatever. Next day, you should go to the mikveh. Right? It's a kind of Ezra. It's a decree of Ezra. Yeah? But it's kind of inconvenient for people. Like, every time, then you got to find a mikveh. You have to go, whatever. Right? So if someone has, let's say, a bodily emission. So the question, can they learn Torah? Can they think in Torah? Right? So again, we hope, practically speaking, if a person didn't get to the mikveh, they should, but if they didn't, they can learn. Right? They can learn. Going to the mikveh will take that off. But, other levels of impurity, higher levels of impurity, it doesn't help. Right? If it would help, I can walk on the Temple Mount. as a Jew. Doesn't help, right? Till the Messiah comes and temple's rebuilt, then okay. They get the red heifer and everyone becomes pure again, whoever lives, whatever. Okay, it's a different issue. But we're not at that level. So it can only take off a certain level of impurity. Right? It's certainly not going to take off the highest level of impurity. So we're all in a state of impurity. So there are two things. It's either you're talking about impurity, right? Or you're talking about body odor. There's two different things. Right? Should a person pray if they smell? No. If they can cover the smell, whatever, okay. If they can't, yeah, better they don't pray. Right? Better they don't pray. Right? Kind of a disgrace, I would think, to pray. Imagine, I'll give an example. Imagine, I don't know, someone wants to play ball, they want to work out, whatever. They don't take a shower and now they walk in to pray. Like, that's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. You don't go, smelling like a pig praying next to other people. Like, it's just a disgrace. All right. So what do you do in such a case? It's getting before sundown. You're stuck. Or go pray by yourself. But again, I was gonna look at that prayer. It's gonna say, well, you got in that position. Oh, I forgot to pray. I gotta pray now. But now you spoke like a pig. Why did you pray? How can you pray? Right? Again, let's make it very graphic. Let's say we're playing God. You say, okay, this guy wants to really pray, but he got delayed, whatever, and it's working out. Now he wants to pray smelling like he smells. You're looking down and say, come on, that's really how you're gonna pray to me. You're gonna pray, you stink to high heaven. No one else wants to get around you because you're sweating like a pig. Okay, like I said, work out, I take care of the body, okay. Understandable, right, to a point. You didn't prepare yourself properly. So if you didn't prepare yourself properly, what do you want from me? You didn't do it, but I want to pray anyway. Very good. Person has a great desire to pray. Okay, right? That, you take that into account, but look what you're doing, right? Again, if it's something, if it's something where a person can prevent it or a person can fix it, it's one thing. If it's something, certain level of impurity you can't fix. No matter what you do, you can't fix it. So you're going to say, wow, I can't reach that high level of impurity, right? So why should I go to synagogue? Good, right? Yeah, it's a good point. But you still got to pray. And no one's going to be on that level of purity. So if no one's going to be on that level of purity, you're going to say no one should pray. Then you throw everybody out the window and say, well, too bad, we're not going to have prayer service because no one has any high level of purity. No one's going to say that. No one at all. If everybody has bad odor, yeah, it might be a different issue. Then no one should pray there. Right? That's a different issue. But I'll ask you a better question or a different question. Let's say a person has body odor. Let's say. Yeah, they really want to pray. Do you think it's good to come in a house of God that way? I don't think so. Yeah. If you're talking about impurity in general, it's one thing. But everyone's in the same boat. Everybody's in the same boat. There's a question if a woman didn't go to the mikveh, right? After a period, can she come and pray? So we hold she can. We hold she can whether she has a period or not. Right? It's not a problem. There is an issue, maybe, if she's impure, whatever, if she has a period touching us, a Torah scroll, whatever, it's a whole different issue. That's a whole different issue. Yeah. Can she come to synagogue? Most biblical Torahs say, yeah. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. Yeah. Even if that level of impurity is not taken off. Right? Even if it's not taken off. And what if a woman's not married? Right? Single women don't go to the mikveh. That's it. They don't go to the mikveh. Sometimes maybe they'll go before, let's say, Yom Kippur, right? Maybe. But most single women, even if they're divorced, they don't go to the mikveh. No reason to. So what do they do when they get the period? They don't go to the mikveh. They don't have to. Can they go to synagogue? They can go to synagogue. No question they can go to synagogue. Right? So at any level, that impurity is never going to be taken off. So it'd be a very easy case to say, well, we're all on the same boat. No one's going to come pray because we don't have the, we can't take off that level of impurity. It's impossible. No one would say that. Nobody would say that. And the mikvah only takes off a certain thing anyway. That's what I would answer. Someone here says, my friend called smartphone a small Yetzirah. Take his laptop a big Yetzirah. Yeah, it goes both ways. Goes with both ways. Yeah. It's a hard thing either way. 100%. 100%. What if you're a Jew in training, you're covered in Tumah? So can you be impure, go to Shabbat service, or do you have to go to use a mikveh? Non-Jew doesn't have to use a mikveh. Mikveh does not affect a non-Jew. Absolutely doesn't affect a non-Jew. Only applies to a Jew. Right? So, even if a non-Jew, let's say, a non-Jew, was involved in idolatry. Maybe maybe the worst of idolatry, whatever. They're covered in impurity. Very good. What? That doesn't affect a non-Jew. Even if it would affect the Jew, if a Jew walked into a church, let's say, 100% forbidden for a Jew to walk into a church. Let's say a Jew walked into a church. He doesn't go to the mikveh. Doesn't go swimming. Maybe he takes a shower, whatever. Doesn't matter. Right? Is he allowed to go to a synagogue and pray? Yes. Is he allowed to be counted as part of a minyan? Yes. You're going to tell me, but he's covered in tumah because he did that. Or he did other things. Okay. Very good. Very, very good. Doesn't mean he can't pray in the synagogue. Doesn't mean he can't be part of a minyan, per se. Depends what he did. But, we'll make it easy. Even, even if I'm not even saying they practice Christianity. I'm not going that far. They went into a church. I don't know. A friend of theirs was getting married. They went into a church. Church service. That means they can never go into a synagogue because they didn't go to the mikvah? Why not? You're going to say, but look at all the impurity that's with him. That's his problem. God's not going to look at it that way. God's going to say, you're right. He's got impurity, but everyone's got impurity. Right? So if he went to the mikvah, is it going to help him? Yeah, maybe it'll help him take off something, but not the highest level. It's not going to help him. Right? What if he came in contact with a dead animal or a dead body? Even better. Highest level of impurity. Came in contact with a Jew, died. Yeah, highest level of impurity. He doesn't wash his hands afterwards. He doesn't go to the mikvah. Can he pray in the synagogue? Yes or no? Yes. He can pray there. Highest level of impurity. Very good. Is there any possible way to take off the highest level of impurity in this world? No. A mikvah won't do that. We don't have a temple today. Yeah. We don't have the ashes of the red heifer. That won't help. It'll help for certain things. Pretty big miracle why should help a woman after she goes to mikvah to be with her husband. That's a good question. Right? Yeah, we could ask. That's a high level of impurity. Extreme high level of impurity back in the temple, like whatever she sat on became impure. Not like live in her own house or, sit on her own things. Otherwise, she makes everything impure that she sits on. We're not at that level. We don't have that level of impurity today. I've heard people say we should get back to that level. We should have that level. That's great. I agree. It's not going to change. It's not going to change till the temple's rebuilt. That's it. It'll never change till the temple's rebuilt. So you always have that level of impurity. So good. Right? That level of impurity you won't have. So even if she has impurity at this point, and now she goes to the mikvah, so the question would be, how's the mikvah help? That's a good question. That's a good question. Right? Can a Jew in training go to a mikvah? Can a Jew in training go to a mikvah? They can. They certainly can. Is it going to affect them? Different issue. But they can. No reason why they can't. Right? Just remember, the same impurity that doesn't help That the mikveh doesn't help for a Jew is certainly not going to help for a non-Jew either. Right? Across the board, won't help. But can they go? They can go. But yeah, you have to realize what it is and what it does. Right? But everyone has a level of impurity. We're all impure. Right? We're all impure. That there's no question. Right? That there's no question. 100% there's no question. Yeah, let me see other questions here. Someone says, I thought about the mikvah was so wrong. Okay, that's why we're here. That's why we're here, to go against people's misconceptions, right? Can I give a class what does or doesn't need to go to the mikvah? Yeah, again, most things you don't need to go to the mikvah for. Almost everything you don't have to go to the mikvah for. The only thing possibly you might have to go for the mikvah for is a woman who wants to become pure for her husband, right, after a period, or someone has seminal emission. And even a guy that has a seminal emission, yeah, like, let's say what he's supposed to, like during relations, very good, should also go to the mikvah, right? Well, most people don't. Most people don't. Come in contact with dead body, do you have to come to go to the mikvah? No. Probably have to wash your hands, but you don't have to go to the mikvah. Yeah, the only time a person would go, a guy would go on before Shabbos, right, or before a holiday, but and a woman that after a period. That's it. You don't go to the mikvah otherwise. Hasidim go every day for extra purity. Okay, they go for extra purity, but there's no other reason to go, because the only thing a mikvah is going to help today is for a woman to become pure for her husband. That's it. Today, the other time you would take your dishes to a mikvah, okay, right? For a mikvah for dishes, that's different. That's something else. But a person themselves going to the mikvah, no, not at all, right? Not at all. I thought non-Jew couldn't go to the mikvah. Non-Jew can't be part of a minyan. They can't be part of a minyan, but but in theory, could a non-Jew go to a mikvah? Why not? Why can't they go to a mikvah? They want to go to a mikvah. Let's say they go to the mikvah before conversion, so why can't they go? Let's say they want to, they're becoming Hasidic. They want to go every day. They can't go. Maybe some people say, come on, they're imitated in Jew, right? Which I've heard the argument. Yeah, they're imitated in Jew, but that's what they want to do. They can't do it. Why not? Why can't they go? I know, two non-Jews, living together, male and a female, right? We'll keep this clean. Yeah, and they're practicing family purity laws. Is she going to the mikveh? No. Not until after conversion. Yeah, that's a different issue. Oh, she wants to practice. I don't know if they're gonna, I'll tell her no. You don't do it till after. But if a guy wanted to go, I don't know why he can't go. Why couldn't he go? He wants extra holiness. Yeah. Why can't he go? I don't know if there's anything wrong with that. For a guy to go. Certainly for a woman, she couldn't go. Right. That's a different issue. But, for a guy, why not? Why not? Or let's say, make it, a little more interesting. Two Jews are not married, male and a female. She wants to go to the mikveh before. Doesn't apply. It's, kind of a stupid thing. It's like you're doing it on purpose. Like, okay, I want to show him more holy, but she's not married to him. Yeah, I want extra holiness, very good, but she's not married to him. So why is she going? That's like saying I'm going to sin and then I'm going to repent. You can't do that. Right? That's an explicit mission at the end of Yuma. You can't do that. You don't get repentance for that. You don't get atonement for that. Person's going to say, I'm going to sin and then I'll repent. Doesn't work. The woman's going to say, yeah, I'm going to practice this, but we're not married. Like, come on. That doesn't do anything. Why should it? Why not? So again, people may disagree. People may take me to task here and say, come on, non-Jews can't go to the mikveh. Women, I would say yes, because it doesn't apply to them, right? Men, if they want extra holiness, why not? I don't see why there's any reason against it. Not doing anything, not making any blessings, not doing anything, right? May not affect them the same way as a Jew. Oh, doesn't matter. They want to feel extra something. Okay. If they're in the process of conversion, if they were being a Noahide, I'd say no. If they were just being a Noahide, I'd totally say no. That's a whole different thing. That's a whole different thing. Right? But again, people would rip me to shreds here and say, what are you telling non-Jews to go to the mikveh for? I'm not telling them to. Someone asked, am I allowed to go? I don't see why not. Because they'll say they're imitating Jews. Okay. But I still don't see, then you can say, well, can non-Jew wear talis? Tefillin they can't. That I would say no. Till after conversion. Right? They have to learn how to put it on before, okay, but till after conversion. Right? Okay, certain things they can't do. Because of the extra holiness it has or whatever. Fine. This is, going into a mikvah, I don't see a problem with it. I don't see a problem with it. Yeah, I know convert or before conversion could be part of a minute. They can't. You're right. I didn't say they could. Don't put words in my mouth. I never said that. I never said a non-Jew before conversion can be part of a minute. What I said is they can go to shul, they can go to synagogue, they have to go to synagogue and pray. No one says they can be part of a minyan. Right? Part of a minyan they can't be. Right? Part of a minyan they can't be. But that's a different issue. Going to the mikvah is like, okay, you want to go? Good. I don't see a problem with it. I don't see why it should be forbidden. A woman, I would say no. Woman's a different issue. Woman's a different issue. Even if she wants to practice family purity laws, very good. So what? So what? Yeah. That should be forbidden until after marriage. Someone asked, well, make sure you don't have a single trace of feces on you before purse service. That's, yeah. It's kind of hard, but that's what you got to do. You got to make sure your body's totally clear. So I would say either you have a duvet, you have a bidet, as they call it, right? Something that shoots water up there will keep this clean, so to speak, or use wipes. Person can use wipes, make sure you're totally clean, right? Shouldn't have a speck of feces, right? 100%. The body should be totally clean. Now, you can always know it's totally clean. You got to check before. Right? Again, you're going in front of God, you got to be squeaky clean, no pun intended. 100%. Right? That's true. So I tell people either, it's not expensive to do, get a, this be for a woman also. You get a bidet, right? It's very, very easy to attach to a, not so hard to attach, right? So the thing is, spritz water up there and you clean yourself. Make sure you're totally clean before you pray, right? Or if you don't want to do that, then you buy wipes. And then wipes are great. They take care of that would take care of the problem. Yeah, that would definitely take care of the problem. You don't want to be OCD, but you gotta make sure it's that area is totally clean, 100%. You got to be presentable in front of God. One way is that way for sure. Make sure the body's clean. The other is to make sure what you're wearing is clean. I'll take it one step further. A rabbinic scholar. And today, a rabbinical scholar can someone who, even a yeshiva student, you walk outside, you go to pray, whatever, and you walk outside with a dirty shirt. I'm not saying filthy, but you got spots on your shirt. Shouldn't wear it. Should change it. Could be liable for death penalty. Death penalty. Because you're supposed to be impeccable in front of God while you're wearing a sloppy shirt. If you just spilled something on and you went to pray, you don't have a choice, one thing. But if you went out with a dirty shirt, you got to be impeccable. You can't look like a slob. And people don't want to learn Torah from someone who looks like a slob. Right? Now, I'm not going to call out certain people. I could, but I won't. And I've seen this by some people. It boggles my mind. And this is not about being jealous, how many views they get, doesn't really matter. Right? But how can someone go out there in a t-shirt? Don't be a rabbi, give a class. I don't care how inspiring it is. I don't care if it's Kabbalah. I don't care what it is. Right? They're essentially wearing a t-shirt. I'm not saying they're wearing shorts. Okay. They're wearing a t-shirt. Very good. Why wear it? Is that like, You want to be respectable in front of other people. You wear a t-shirt like when you're exercising. You wear a t-shirt like, to go to sleep in or something. You don't wear a t-shirt to give a class in. You look like a slob, right? With a capital S. I remember through rabbinical school, Shiva University, and I was taking a class, professor wasn't there, someone else came. Very bright guy. Very, very bright guy. This guy looked like a schlep in my language, like an absolute 100% slob. Slob with a capital S. I see the picture right in front of my face. His shirt was dirty, unkempt, not tucked in. It looked like a slob. In certain yeshivas in Slobodka and other places, they one of the things they stressed almost more than anything else was being dressed appropriately. Your bed had to be made. Shoes had to be shined. You say, oh, come on, these are externals. Yeah. It's the tsur, it's the what do you call it? The picture of the way a person should look. Imagine you go into an important meeting with somebody, whoever it is, whatever it is. You're gonna go there with stains on your shirt? You're gonna go, looking like an absolute slob? I don't think so. You want to make an impression. Yeah. As a yeshiva student, you want to make an impression. Because you're doing it for God, right? I got to tick someone off. Most people probably can't imagine this, right? Someone says, I'm embarrassed the way you dress. I'm like, what's the problem with the way I dress? I said, we dress more or less the same, except, I have a yarmulke on my head and I t-shirt, I have tzitzis and, it's going to be black pants with or without pinstripes, gray pants with or without pinstripes, or, dark blue with or without pinstripes, let's say. So I said, people that, work on Wall Street, I don't know if it's still the same today, but they work on Wall Street, what do they have to wear? Single-breasted suit, double-breasted suit, with or without a tie. That's what they have to wear, right? Let's say that's still true. So I said, this person didn't like the answer, but, okay, you got to tell the truth. I said, why are they doing that? Because what's the first thing a person does after they come home from work? What's the first thing they do? Either they turn on the TV set or they change their clothes. Because they don't want to get their clothes dirty, because they're doing other things. Okay. So I said, so why are they dressing up like that? Because that's what they're getting paid for. It's a dress code. So they're doing it for money. So this person could have seen the smoke coming out of their ears. Yeah. So this person says, okay, so why do you dress the way you do? You know why I dress the way I do? Because that's what God wants. That's what God wants. Wants me dressed in a specific way. Doesn't want me to, doesn't want me to look like a schlep at all times. Right? I said, I shower in these clothes. I said, no, just kidding. But yeah, you have to look respectable. Not for money. You got to look respectable, when you pray, when you're out there in the world. Even in your house, you got to look respectable. Right? Now, if you're working out, this, that, okay. You're not going to wear those type of clothes. Right? You wear other clothes. Very good. Right? But you want to look respectable. Men and women. Right? I'm not saying either way, for both. But by certain yeshivas, this was an important thing. Being organized. Taking care of your physical needs. But looking the way you should. Now, you might say that's too much for, that's too much for, what do you call it? For, externals. But at the same time, they wanted to teach them. 100%, they wanted to teach them. You got to look a certain way. You got to be impeccable out there. You can't look like you're totally disheveled. Or disheveled, however you say it. Right? You can't look like a slob, in my language. Now, someone will tell me, I've seen people like that, and okay, so it gives us a bad name. Okay. I'm not going to answer for them. I got plenty of people who look respectable, and they should look respectable. They shouldn't look like slobs. 100% they shouldn't look like slobs. We're our own worst enemy in that sense. But you look at somebody different. You 100%, 100% you look different. So when they're mentioned, yeah, Parsh touches on approaching Hashem with casualness. God, God's not like we're looking at him as our friend. We're looking at him as like a father. How do you want to look like to a father? We address them in two ways. We address them Baruch Atah, right? You, as in like we're close to you, which seems like a contradiction, because then we say Melech HaOlam, right? For any blessing, that God is king of the world, God's far away. So how can you look at him both ways? On the one hand, yeah, he is far away, and he is king of the world and all that. But at the same time, we have a direct connection. He's like a father. So if he's like a father, we can address him in a more, I wouldn't say casual, more personal way. I think some people, again, I'm not going to say everybody by any stretch, but I think some people are very casual when it comes to God. Some people, let's say, when it comes to kashrus, some people would say that, as long as it has some kashrus supervision, that's good enough. Now, first community I ever lived in, people were very stringent. They only held by certain rabbinic supervision. Been ingrained in me for a long time, very, very long time. Certain kashrus organizations I would say better than others because it has the stamp of a kashrus organization. Doesn't mean you should eat it. But there are people that are lenient. They'll say, come on, it's kosher, it's kosher. Kosher, it's kosher. It's better kosher, let's say. And there are people that are very stringent. They don't want to take any chances. So they'll hold by top rabbinic supervision, even costs more. I tell my Rebbe all the time, listen, you guys are making a lot of money from me. Because their stuff's more expensive. For different things that they do. It's more expensive. Than others. So he told me about certain rabbinic supervision. He's like, I don't understand how they do it for so cheap. I said, because you guys want to make money. Yeah. I said, it doesn't matter. I still don't know how they can do it so cheap. Yeah, whatever, with expenses the way they are. Whatever it is. Right? Whatever it is. But, we got to be careful what we put in our mouth. There is better supervision than others. But some people say, no, this is just as good. If it's got rabbinic supervision, it's okay. It's not true. Right? It's just not true. So, and for a Jew, this affects us a lot more. Because I'm not saying it's treif. Right? I'm not necessarily saying that. By some things I might. Some organizations I might say that. But, certainly not all of them for sure. Right? But, they might be lax on certain things other organizations are not. But it has an effect. It has an effect on the soul. So if it has an effect on the soul, why are you taking chances? Right? Today's generation, the younger generation, I think they'll be more lenient, than my generation. Why? I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I don't have a good answer necessarily why. But like I said, it's been ingrained in my head. This is something you don't want to mess with, right? On a regular basis, you don't want to mess with. You're taking a chance. I'm not saying it's not right trait. I'm not going to go that far, right? I'm not going to go that far, but there are better things than not. Not. So this relationship that we have with God cannot be in a casual way. We gotta take things seriously. It doesn't have to be heavy every second of every day, but need a little bit of time to chill and other things, but still, you can't, if you take it casually and too casually, then for sure you're bound to sin. And worse, because then you become lax. And once you become lax and you start relying on things maybe you shouldn't or whatever, it can have an effect in other things. Definitely can have an effect in other things. Or a person, thinks, oh, this is just a stringency and this is just this and whatever. Again, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful because it's a Pandora's box. Once you open, once you open a Pandora's box, it's very hard to close. Right? Very, very hard to close. Someone asks if more people were observant correctly in Orthodox Judaism, wouldn't the price costs of being kosher become easier? Affordable. Wouldn't have to go back to being a national decree like Snyder with the law of the land. The first thing is that what if you have cow shortage? One year they had chicken shortage. Even this year they had some chicken shortage. Why? Why? Because a lot of the chickens are grown, and they're slaughtered up north. And up north, because of all the rockets and this and that, a lot of the chickens were trafe. Because they got scared. They ran, other things. Scared, they got scared. So you had a shortage of that. Sometimes you have a shortage. You can have a shortage if, let's say the weather there is very, very cold. Yeah, there were times where a lot of chickens died because of the cold. Right? So in theory, you would say, wow, more people, remember one thing, if more people, are going to keep kosher, which is good, then it's supply and demand. So if there's enough supply, good. But you got to remember one thing, what goes into kosher slaughter? A lot that goes into it. A lot that goes into it. That's why the price is so high. That's why, and that's why the meat's so salty. Right? 100%, that's why the meat is so salty. Because we want to make sure there's no blood, right? Which we've spoken about. So if you have more people and you got to slaughter more animals and there are issues, the price is not going to drop. The price is certainly not going to drop, right? It's not going to drop in that sense. But somebody mentions the Jewish friend who supervised kosher kitchen in Baltimore mentioned the employees who are non-Jews. Right? They're so angry. Doesn't anger affect our food? Why are non-Jews cook the food? Yeah. So first of all, if the food, let's say the animal's already slaughtered, right? Non-Jew can't slaughter. Non-Jews forbidden to slaughter, do ritual slaughter in general. So if that's the case, they're not slaughtering the cows or chickens or whatever. So they have no effect. So whatever they do, cleaning out the animals and when they're cleaning the animals or whatever and cutting them up, has nothing to do with the kashrus of it. Yeah, zero, right? The animal's kosher, let's say. They're cutting them up. Jews are watching over the salting. Whatever. They're packaging it. Okay. So even if they're so angry, let's say they are so angry for whatever reason, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. There's no effect on anything. Zero. And no effect on the meat, doesn't affect anything. Unless they get so mad, they start pulling shtick and doing things that they shouldn't do that could render it not kosher. That's a different issue. But if they're just like packaging it, putting it together, doing other things, no effect whatsoever. No effect whatsoever. Right? Doesn't matter how angry they are. Now, why allow non-Jews to cook the food? Okay. So that's a different question. And the answer is because you can't get Jews to do it. So if you can't get Jews to do it, you have non-Jews to do it. But what's the problem? If they cook the food, and they cook the food from beginning to end, the Jew can't eat it. So obviously, the Jew is there to make sure the fire is on, right? They have to make sure the fire is on and the fire is high enough to cook. So you don't have a problem we call bishul akum, where non-Jews cook and it's forbidden for Jews. right? So simple answer is you won't get Jews to do the work. Maybe some will, but a lot of these places have non-Jews. You're right, 100% right. So that's why a kashrus organization where someone's going to light the fire and make sure the fire is very strong to be able to cook. Otherwise, the Jew can't eat it, right? But what's the reason? What's the reason they're going to get a non-Jew to do it? Because you pay them less. A Jew, you'd have to pay more, right? You would pay more, so it might be cost efficient to do, right? It'd be better to have a Jew do it, no question, right? Or what about a secular Jew? Could you have a secular Jew do it? Same problem. Same exact problem. Secular Jew doesn't keep Shabbos, has status of a non-Jew. So you got to do the same thing. You got to make sure the fire is lit beforehand, right? And if the fire is lit, that it's enough to cook. It's enough to cook, right? So secular Jew would be in the same category, right? So yeah. So maybe tell me these jobs don't pay a lot, so Jews won't do it. Okay, right? Yeah, I see in supermarkets here, for instance. You have Jews that'll be, let's say, cashiers, whatever. But most of the people that work in let's say a big supermarket or whatever, Arabs, Arabs. Yeah. So where I live, you have like 2,000 coming in every day. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. So after October 7th, they had a moratorium. They stopped them from coming in. So what they did was they imported people from Africa to come, and African workers. Now they bring in another set of problems, right? A different set of problems than Arabs do. Okay. Well, it's kind of neat speaking them in English and whatever, because Arabs are just, you don't really have much to do with them, right? They do what they do, whatever, but like you don't really speak to them too much or whatever. Like, this they're them and you're you. Like that's it. The two don't mix. Yeah, I'm saying, but how much is someone gonna have, so much contact with, an African worker that comes? They're probably not too much either. Right? Well, it's kind of neat speaking them in English. So like they, find people to speak English. It's like, whatever. But then they get rid of them. Why? Because it's cheaper labor. Cheaper labor. So they'll make more money because they have cheaper labor. So now if they hire Jews, that's a problem. Why? It's a problem in the sense where they're gonna have to pay them more. Right? For Arabs, you can pay them less. Right? You can pay them less. So they'll hire Arabs. 100%. They'll hire, again, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's the reality. Right? In a lot of these places, Jews won't do the work. Who are the builders in Israel? Who's built up the entire country? Arabs. And you can't find Jews to do it, they won't do the work. It's heavy labor. A lot of Jews won't do the work. You have Jews on top of them and ordering them around and doing this and doing that, whatever. But like they're not doing essence of the work. And the Arabs have built up this whole country. They're the ones building. When they had problems, they brought in Taiwanese workers, they brought in Chinese workers, different things. But this is what they do. And then they allow the Arabs to come back. And there have been many cases. They'll help build an apartment, this and that before they leave. What do? They put cement down the drain. So now your pipes are all clogged. They've been known to do that, right? Known to do that. So, if you use somebody, let's say person does renovations. They do renovations. They want to use Jewish workers. They want to use somebody who only uses Jewish workers, right? So a lot of people got stuck after October 7th. They got stuck. They were building, doing different things, especially in my neighborhood. They were building, no Arabs allowed in. So now what? But they're still paying for the work. They're still paying for the work. They can't get workers. You have to find, other workers. Well, people lost a lot of money. A lot of money doing that. But if you hire all Jewish workers, the price goes up exponentially. That's just the way it is. Arabs are cheaper labor. Much cheaper labor. So, on the other hand, using them puts a danger to people. They put a danger to people. So what do you do? Person's like pulling strings in different ways, try and, do renovations, whatever. They'll use cheaper labor. Even expensive, maybe putting people's lives in danger, but using Jewish labor costs more. 100% costs more. So remember, I did certain things, when I lived in one neighborhood. Yeah, I did certain things. I only used Jewish labor. Yeah, I can afford to use Jewish labor, but you have no choice. You have no choice. God willing, I do other things here. It ain't gonna be with Arab labor, right? I should have the money, hopefully, to do it. So, so I have a choice. I'll have a choice. Other people will say, whatever they use, and I have no interest in, using Arab labor. Every building I've been in, I've had a merit to have someone build. Every single in the last 16 years, I've been in 1, 2, 3 buildings besides one I'm in now. This is my 4th building living in. Each time I was in a building, someone built. There's noise and dust and this but whatever. What's the main thing? Arabs coming in and out. Everyone's using Arab labor. I'm not here to condemn anyone. Most people using Arab labor. Why? It's cheaper. It's cheaper. 100%. It's a good philosophical question. Even if it's cheaper, should you do it? Because potentially putting people's lives in danger. Essentially. Yeah. But they don't care. That's the problem. These people do whatever. They don't care. They lie straight to your face. I had this happen a number of times. I just yelled and screamed at them. They lied straight to my face. That's what they do. Because oh, that's racist, you'll get banned. That's what they do. I'm telling you, practically speaking, seeing it. They'll lie straight to your face. Chinese no different. They do the same thing. People involved in kashrus know you can't trust anything they say. Right? They have the same thing. That's just the way it is. If they tell you today is, Saturday and, it's, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you don't believe them. You can't believe them. Sometimes you have to rely on them for certain things. Okay. Yeah, but you have to know what you're dealing with. 100%, you have to know what you're dealing with. So, that's another issue. But so even if non-Jews that are angry, preparing food and this and that has no effect on the kashrus. If it's something where they're like actually, it's why you need rabbinic supervisors to oversee what they're doing, right? Whoever the non-Jewish workers are, let's see what they're eating, let's see what they bring in, see what knives they use. They could just take a regular knife and use it for something that's trade. That's why you have to be on top of them, right? But if they're cooking, you got to make sure that the fire's already started, right? That a Jew starts the fire, or he has some portion of the cooking. But normally a Jew will start the fire, at the beginning of the day. The fire is big enough to cook. And that takes care of the problem where Bishul Akum goes out the window. You don't have a problem with non-Jew cooking, right? That's going to be forbidden, right? But, again, if they're angry, this, that, doesn't matter. And that doesn't have an effect. Not like the same thing like speaking to a plant or these other things that has an effect. It has no effect. Shouldn't have any effect. Kashrus is a different issue in the sense that, maybe we're worried they're going to add something. They're going to do something to make it non-kosher. That's a different issue. But if you have something watching them, okay. But just because they're angry, it shouldn't have any effect. And you're going to ask me, why allow non-Jews to cook the food? Because Jews won't do it. They just won't do it. Not worth it. They won't make enough money. Now, you could say, well, they're charging it up. Maybe they charge more so they have more Jewish workers. Okay. So one particular supermarket I go to. So when the Arabs weren't there, they had Jewish workers. Much better. Most of the workers were Jewish. They had these Africans there also, but like most of the workers there were Jewish. Much better dealing with Jews than with Arabs. Right? But you pay them more. That depends who they are, right? The young kids or whatever, it's okay. So, you can charge, you can pay them less. But, why are they going to use them? Why are they going to use Arabs in general? Right? Because it's profit margin. That's what it is. Might sound disgusting, but that's the facts. They're going to pay people they can charge, they can pay less. When they pay them less, they make more money, right? That's dollars and cents, right? Dollars and cents. Somebody says when it comes to kosher food, it's very expensive, right? Right. I don't know too many Jews in general that are buying meat during the week. Meat, has been off limits for, unless you buy, let's say, some meat before the holiday or something like that. Meat's outrageous prices. Yeah, they've been outrageous for a long time. It's not something, it's not something new. It's just whatever. Labor demands other things. The prices just, gone through the roof. You buy a butterball turkey that's not kosher, you buy 50 cents on the pound, or used to be 30 cents on the pound or whatever. If it's kosher, it's like $2-3 a pound at least. At least. And red meat's through the roof. Right? Absolutely through the roof. Here it's expensive also. Right? Very, very expensive. You could spend $20-$30 a pound. Yeah, when it comes to meat here. Yeah. So most people, are not eating red meat during the week, usually. Usually. Maybe chicken, some other things, whatever. But yeah, food in general across the world's been, it's gone up exponentially. Yeah, 100%. 100%. But at the end of the day, come Shabbos, you have to eat meat. Chicken, whatever. What they do in Europe. What they do in Europe, they had no money. They barely had food. People were starving. I'm not even talking about the prices going skyrocketing. People were starving. People absolutely were starving there. So what do? Eat what you can eat. And I told the story before by the students of the Vilna Gaon. More than 250 years ago, they're starving. They were starving. Abject poverty. But Vilna Gaon sent them to hospitals before Shabbos. See how people were suffering in the hospitals. Now, so they came into Shabbos singing and dancing. Very good. Yeah. They came in singing and dancing, but guess what? They weren't having chicken Friday night. I can tell you that. So that didn't help. That didn't help their abject poverty, but it gave them what to think about. They were gone into a hospital, gone into what's it called? Go into an emergency room, see what goes on there. People in agony, people screaming, people in pain. You see something like that, people can't take care of their own needs. They're unbelievable pain. Guess what? You look at life a little bit different. You should look at life very different. We don't. We don't. And we live above our means anyway, buy things that probably don't need. Right? And we probably cut off a lot of money and save a lot of money, but okay, I want this, I want that, I want to keep a certain standard, whatever. But yeah, life is expensive. I don't think, there's just no question. Right? But for a religious family in the States, or in other places, that's not even the most expensive thing. Most expensive thing by them is tuition. Kids' tuition, school. I just saw an ad for in Norfolk, Virginia. They're looking for people to come there. It's supposed to be a nice community. So they said after the first year, kids go to school. After the first year, they get a discount. You pay $5,000 a year for a kid. $5,000 per kid per year. Right? So do the math. Let me do the math here. Right? So it's kind of cheap. It's like $400 a month. $416 a month. And let's say you got, I don't know, 3-4 kids. Let's say you got 4 kids. That's $1,700 a month. $1,700 a month. Right? Times 12. Oops, sorry. What do you call it? One second, let me put the right number here. Oops. One second. It comes out to almost $20,000 a year per kid. And this is cheap. So it's like almost sorry, not per kid. Let's say you had 4 kids, it'd be $20,000 a year. $20,000 a year. Another place is more expensive. Right? That's $400 per month. Imagine if it was $1,000 per month. That's where the money goes. Even if someone's making good money, so money goes to tuition, car payments, a mortgage or rent, and food. After that, that's it. How much money I have left over? That's where people struggle the most. Is tuition. Even if it's good schooling, still tuition is expensive, right? Tuition is very expensive. So unless you live in a place where there are vouchers or whatever, tuition is very expensive. So what do? They gotta make more money, right? Yeah, no one disagrees. But I remember, years ago, when I was in the States, people would claim if you're not making $100,000 a year, you're in debt. In debt. Yeah, yeah. Send your kids to camp. They're expensive. Much more expensive. Listen, here in Israel is also expensive. Certain things offset, but you still need money. Right? No question. So, tuition not expensive here, health insurance not as expensive. Certainly not very expensive. Okay, but you make less money also. Okay, so there are things that offset. Very good. Very, very good. Food just as expensive. Other things just as, rent or mortgage just as expensive. But you're making less money. So you don't win either place. They're just things that offset. But certainly in the States, we're going to talk about the States. It's definitely more expensive there. Definitely not to, definitely, more expensive. Someone here says not to mention camps. Yeah, you're in Israel. Yeah, also. Yeah, yeah. Listen, not everyone kid goes to camp, but people will send their kids to camp and do the best of their ability. They can't leave them home. They don't want to leave them. It's a huge expense. Huge expense also. So, so what do? They say, you find a job that's going to make you a lot of money. Well, isn't that what everyone's looking for? Both parents work still. Tax wise also, so you're going to lose money. You're going to lose money, and at the end of the day, how much money you have left over? How much money really have left over? So people say, you got to save money. You got to put money away. When your kids are young. Good, makes sense if you can do it, right? If you can do it, very good, right? So then later becomes not gonna say easier, but you have what to fall back on. And then what happens when you have to marry off kids? That's a whole different thing. That's a whole different calculation. That's what the Satmar Rebbe said of blessed memory, that the biggest miracle wasn't the 6-Day War, how other Orthodox Jews marry off their kids in Israel. That's a huge miracle. And if you go to any wedding halls, in religious areas, every night they're booked when they're allowed to get married. Booked. People marrying off the kids. How they do it? Everyone's got their own stories. Everyone has their own stories. How they do it. Each one of my kids is also a big miracle. Huge miracle. Right? No question. It's like making ends meet is one thing. Marrying off kids, different thing. It's a different thing. Now, some people put themselves more into debt for that. Okay. I'm not advocating that, but not everyone can buy their kids an apartment. Most people can't. Some people just go in debt to do it. It's better than renting, yes. More than 70% of Israelis own their apartments. It's pretty miraculous if you live in a war zone, and the price keeps just going up. It's not going down. Supply and demand. Where I live, prices have gone up 3 times in the last 15 years. Last 16 years, 3 times gone up. Price is triple the price. Triple the price. Why is that? Because it's a big demand to live here. It's a huge demand. In a lot of places, there's big demand, and people are going to end up living, further out because, newer places for that reason. For exactly that reason. They're not building fast enough, to offset that. So, and you get thousands of people getting married every year. So where are they supposed to go? How are they supposed to buy? It used to be back in the day. I mean, it used to be in Jerusalem itself. It was like it was considered $50,000 a room. Right? When you look at an apartment, say it's 4 rooms, it means it's got 3 bedrooms. Right? So it used to be $50,000 a room. It's worth now, it's probably triple that. Triple that, because that's just the way it is. If you want to live in Jerusalem, price gone through the roof. Through the roof. Other places also. And the more they build, the more they build is better, but prices have not gone down. not gone down. It's it's God's irony in a certain way. Like I say, you live in a desert, you live in the middle of a war zone, no pun intended. Prices have not gone down. I've been here 28 or 29 the last 32 years, 31 years, whatever it is. Prices have not gone down. Right? Supply and demand, it's my mother. But that's that's what it is. So you gotta live, right? So people say, bottom line isn't it better to own than to rent? Yes. 100%. Better to own than to rent. Renting's a waste of money. Yeah, but how much is the person going to put themselves in debt or try and do it? Right? How are you going to do it? Someone asked, what about non-Jewish as a house cleaner? It's also a problem. It's also a problem in the sense where you got to make sure, if they're doing dishes and other things, you have to explain to them and be on top of them about what they're allowed to do or not allowed to do. And there are stories that caught on camera, that no one's around. They're cooking stuff for themselves. That traced up everything. Potentially traced up everything. Yeah, so you have to be on top of them, right? So is it permissible to have a non-Jewish cleaner? Yes, but you have to be on top of them. You have to be on top of them. They can't cook for themselves. You can't allow them to cook for themselves. You have to be on top of them. 100%. Some people would never survive without cleaning them. Not a knock on them. They have a lot of kids. Women work. And their house can be upside down, totally upside down. So they need help. There's no question. So you're out to have help. You just gotta, I'm not talking about if they steal things, whatever. It's another issue, but I'm talking about a kashrus issue, right? So you have to be on top of them. You have to be on top of them to make sure they don't cook anything, and if they are going to, like wash dishes and this and that, you have to tell them specifically what to do, what not to do, and you got to be careful. You got to be careful because they can trade things up straight away. Other rules about how to spend money for a family. Yeah. Man might get angry how much money we spent on cleaning issues. Yeah, it was $1,000 a single bottle of wine, this and that. That goes according to each family. In other words, they have to work out, between husband and wife, what they want to spend, how much they want to spend. Has to go, between them. And people come from different walks of life, in the sense that one person could grow up, let's say they were very well off, so they're used to certain things. And the other spouse could grow up, very, very poor, relatively poor. They don't spend a lot of money. Because they never had it. So yeah, there has to be a balance. That they have to discuss among themselves. So if they agree, they can have a pool table and other things, that considered a waste of money. They can discuss it themselves. But they have to come to agreement how, finance. And you can run into problems that way also, but they have to discuss like, how much money's coming in, where it should go, what the priorities are, putting money away. They need to be on the same page. They for sure need to be on the same page. They could disagree on certain things as long as it doesn't affect anything. If it doesn't affect anything, good. If the woman's just she's got anxiety, other things, and the way she feels is by going shopping. They don't really have the money for it, and she maxed out credit cards. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. That's gonna have to be, it's gonna have to be dealt with. Or let's say the husband gambles, or he takes gambles on things he shouldn't. Yeah, that has to be discussed. I don't want to do that. They have to be on the same page. Even if they grew up differently, okay. But they have to get along in the sense where they're on the same page on how they're going to spend money. Because you can't have one person going one direction, one person the other, and there's nothing left. And that has to be discussed, 100%. 100% what the priorities are have to be discussed. Have to be discussed. Sometimes, a person comes in to marriage, usually I think the guy's learning, the wife's, will work to help support, probably get help from, from the family, at the beginning, maybe for a few years, okay, but they have to have some sort of fiscal responsibility. It should be classes on this. Sometimes they come in, they have no clue about money. Yeah, that's never good, right? They have just no idea. How much things cost, how expensive things are. Some have better ideas. Some definitely have better ideas. Others, I don't think necessarily have a clue, but they find out straight away. And not everyone, gets support. So there are people that, okay, they want to live this life. They want to, they're going to be frugal and whatever because it's important for the husband to learn for a certain amount of time. Very good. Yeah. So, they'll work it out. What they'll get, what they won't get, when they'll get, different things. Right. But, if someone's on holding there and it's like rammed down their throat, it's obviously never going to be good. Right. So they always have to be on the same path. Right. They have to work it out. They don't agree on everything. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to agree, on everything, but they have to work it out in a way where they're going to be able to, live by it. And the whole first year, what they call Shana Rishona, the first year, is all about, getting used to the other person. I'm not just talking about, physicality. I'm talking about just in everyday life. What they do, what their manners are, and different things. People grow up very differently. If they grow up religious, doesn't matter. Some people, more meticulous how they keep the house, other people less. You know, they come from different families. So no family's the same. No family's the same. So they have to work that out. Whatever. It takes a while to get used to each other's quirks and different things, and but it's all part of the bigger picture. But it has, it only has to be worked out and definitely has to be discussed. If they're like, if they're on totally opposite ends of the, of whatever it is, they might have to go for, some level of counseling to, to help deal with it. If one's spending a lot more money than they have and this and that, it's got to be dealt with. Right? As long as they're on the same path, it should be okay. They should be able to work it out. Right? But again, they're coming from different worlds, different ways they were brought up. So it's gonna take time to get used to each other. Mannerisms, other things, especially when it comes to money. Money's a big thing. Definitely a big thing. Someone asked, it's always amazing, such a great example. How many Jewish parents invest in their children? That's the obligation. You got to work hard. Even after the marriage, still have to work hard, but you have to have distance. Right? Like, people always told me, it's like, kids get married, two things you have to do. One is, you always have to give them money, you have to have money in your pocket, and you got to keep your mouth shut. So I said, well, I got two strikes against me. I said, very little money in my pocket, and I got a big mouth. So, like, sometimes you just got to watch things happen. Unless it's like something dangerous or whatever, you might have to intervene, but like, you don't intervene unless you have to. Right? Told all my son-in-laws, and said, once you walk down that aisle, my daughter walks around you, that's it. She's yours. She's all yours. You got problems, whatever, I'm here to help. I'm not getting involved. You got the whole package. That's it. You work it out. If I have to get involved, I will, but no reason to. It's their lives. If you have to get involved, you do. But, for the most part, it's hands off. And sometimes it's hard to see sometimes what they do and whatever, but like, they have to make their own decisions. Everyone have to make their own decisions. Someone told me that years ago, many, many years ago. And before, I had little kids. Well, it's good advice. Very, very good advice. Not always easy to do it, but it's good advice. Definitely good advice. Any other, let me see, any other questions? Somebody asked if they expect women to be beautiful, but won't let her buy nice clothes or shampoo or oils. That could be a challenge. You gotta remember one thing, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. If someone thinks, their spouse, let's say, a guy thinks about a woman like, I want you to wear this, or I want you to wear that, or I want you to look like this, that's gonna be a problem. And the reason it's going to be a problem because he's got expectations. He's got certain expectations. Yeah. And if he's got certain expectations, that's not going to change after they get married. Just the opposite, it'll get worse. Right? Someone wants to be controlling. I think it was better wearing this, or I think it was better, like, it's being too controlling in a certain way. Maybe, they buy clothes, shampoo, or they get mad how much these things cost. All right. But if they know it's going to benefit them also, the way she looks, okay. Right? It's part of, within reason. Again, if she's spending like $200-300 a week on this stuff, I'd say it's too much. Right? Within reason, yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. But a person has to remember also that, her body's going to change, however many kids she has. So, you're marrying for better or for worse. And some people, once they have kids, it's hard to, keep off the weight. Right? I know someone, his wife just never lost the weight. And she's kind of heavy. It can happen. It can certainly happen. But like, the figure never stays the same. And if a person's only involved in physicality, you lose interest that way. And certainly a guy never wants to tell his wife she's overweight. She'll like hit him with a frying pan. It's never a good idea, even if you think it. Even if it might be true. You gotta be very, very delicate. Very, very delicate. It's one thing a woman doesn't want to hear. Right? Will never want to hear. Yeah. But again, within reason. You say, it's not healthy, it's, it causes heart attacks, it cause, okay. Yeah, but, you gotta be smart. All you guys out there, you gotta be smart because you say that, she's gonna hit you with a frying pan. You can hint, this, whatever. And someone gave his wife an incentive and, buy this or buy that, she lost a certain amount of weight. I mean, she wanted to lose weight, then gave her incentive. Okay. Yeah, but but let's realize like a woman's body's gonna change. And if it's all about the way she looks, what happens when she gets older and wrinkles start coming in and there's no surgery and this and that. What do you gonna throw her out because of it? Midlife crisis could happen, but what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So that's one thing. Is it possible to sell part of Olam Haba in exchange for a few $1,000,000? What you can do, and I mentioned this to people before, and that is that a person can do something a little bit different, and that is what we call a Yisachar Zvulun relationship. What's that? So you had one of the brothers that would work and help support the other person in learning, right? So the way it works is the person would give 10% or 20%, let's say, of what they make, in exchange for the merit of the other person learning Torah. In other words, whenever that person learns Torah, they would get the merit. They would get the merit of learning Torah, even if they're not learning the Torah, but they're helping financially support the person learning Torah. Now, Moshe Feinstein, of blessed memory, said, if you're really going to be a partner, that means you give 50%. Now, you're only really allowed to give 20% maximum to charity. Otherwise, if you give too much, you might end up needing help from other people, right? So essentially, I mean, there are people that do this. They give 10%, they give 20%. Some may give 50%, let's say. But they get, when that person learns, or let's say the person giving classes or learns or whatever, they're learning, they get merit in that. They get reward in the next world. When they die, they're going to get merit for that Torah learning. Because they're helping support it. Right? Very good. So now the question would be, could you sell part of your Olam Haba for a few $1,000,000? You could. You definitely could. There have been cases of such things. Somebody, a story of Chaim Brisker, blessed memory, came to a certain city to raise money. So there was a rich person there. And he said he's willing, see if I get the story right, he's willing to pay him all the money he was supposed to make in one shot. He just wants to have a merit in his learning. So let him sit and learn for a week, 2 weeks, but he'll support whatever the money he was supposed to get there. So he took him up on it, right? And then afterwards he thought about it, and he didn't want to do that. So they went to Chaim Moiser, who was a Gadol Ador at that time, Chaim Moiser Grzinski, of blessed memory, and this rich person took him to took him to a din Torah, took him to a judgment, and how could he renege on what he said, but you see such a thing that a portion of a person's learning, or in their portion of the world to come, they could sell. Essentially, they could give part of it away. Yeah, right. So there is a thing. Someone started a whole group. Obviously they vet people who learn. They vet people who who want to give money. That's what it's called. It's called Yisachar Zvulun relationship. That's what it is. In other words, someone gives let's say 10% or 20%, of what they make, what they make, and they give it to that person. So they give it to help that person financially. So now what do they get? What do they get in return? So they get the reward of that person learning Torah. So let's say that person learns all day. Let's say that person learns, that's this organization, I think they usually do it for people who learn full time. They learn all day. So let's say a person's learning 8 hours a day. They're learning, and they're vetting like serious rabbinic scholars, right? So that money's certainly going to help them, right? Certainly going to help them. So what do? So what happens? So essentially, that money's helping them live, right? It's taking care of their physical needs. And what do they get? They get the merit of them learning Torah during the day. You're talking about power learners, talking about, I'm talking about, average people here in general, right? Because they're gonna vet who the person is, right? Very good, right? Very good. So what happened? So what do they get? So they get the reward. They get the reward as if they're learning the same Torah. So when they get up to heaven, right? They sign a document. The person learning for them signs a document and says that the portion, they don't get the full portion. Obviously, the person learning gets a portion of learning also, but they are going to get a portion of that. They're going to get a portion of that learning. So the money they're giving is going to a rabbinic scholar, let's say, that is learning, and they have them in mind when they learn, right? That's what it is. So you say the moral is usually people that want to keep investing in Olam Haba, right? But Chofetz Chaim said, they wanted him. Rav Naftali Trupp, who was the head of the yeshiva in Radin, was sick, so they wanted people to donate time to learn in his merit. So they came to Chofetz Chaim and said, "How much time are you willing to give as part of your learning?" They thought about it. So I'll give 1 minute. So I'm willing to give 1 minute. Students asked, 1 minute? The head of the yeshiva is sick. You're going to give 1 minute? He said, you know what 1 minute's worth? Said a person can say 200 words a minute. I could probably say more, but let's say, in general, an average person can say 200 words a minute. 200 words a minute, or every time you say the words a mitzvah that you're learning. That's 200 mitzvahs in a minute, right? Let's do the math, right? 200 a minute times 60 minutes, right? You're learning 60 minutes. It's 12,000 in an hour. And let's say you're constantly learning, you learn, 8 hours. It's 96,000 mitzvahs. 96,000 mitzvahs in 1 day. Right? Let's say times 6, 576,000 a week, times 4 is 2,304,000 mitzvahs, right? A month times 12 is 27,648,000. Now, anyone want to sign up? Making millions. Making millions of mitzvahs. You didn't do them, but you're getting merit as if you did. Because you're paying the other person to learn on your behalf. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. So that is what it is. Someone asked, are we not allowed to listen to Rabbi Manis Friedman? Yeah, that's a problem, right? Mentioned before, there are other people who come out much stronger. There are people who have said what he said is true, based on Kabbalistic sources and Hasidic sources, i.e. the God doesn't need us, right? He says that God does need us, right? It goes against many classical, teachings. But there are people that have defended him and said, in other classic works, in Kabbalah and Hasidus, it does say that. He is right, but he said other things also, right? He definitely said other things also that are problematic. Definitely problematic. So if you ask me personally, should you listen to him? I would say no. Definitely say no. Also, the Gottman Institute of Relationship. Okay, to study to read a few books by John Gottman. I don't know. I have to look into that. I have to look into it. Not sure. I would call. Let me make. Where is it? Whoops. Let me make a note of it. I'll make a note of it now. Oops. Okay. I'm gonna make a note of it and I'll take a look. I haven't heard about it, but I'll take a look at it. Yeah, any other questions? Someone that's like Zvulun had more merit than Naphtali. Issachar. Again, it's two ways, goes two ways. One is doing the learning. I mean, the learning is infinite, right? Learning is, the merit is infinite, seemingly. So the other person's working to support them, good, but what are they gaining? To get in spiritual life, as if they did it themselves. So imagine this is like a bona fide Torah scholar. Let's say the real deal. And they're learning, I don't know, 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day, whatever it is. So you get the merit for that learning. That's worth millions, as we just said, millions. That's what it's worth. So it's good for both, right? Who's gaining more? I would say the one who's giving the money is gaining more, right? The other person's going to learn anyway, so he's going to get the merit for learning. But the other person's not doing the learning. So why should she get merit? Just the fact it gives money, why should she get the merit? Oh, because it's helping the other person live. Just giving the other person equilibrium, menuchas nefesh, as we would call it. You don't have to worry about how they're going to pay their bills, right? It's what everybody worries about. How they, sometimes better, sometimes not, right? But they have people helping support them. Yeah, so it makes it easier. Definitely makes it easier. Yeah. Let me see. Any other questions? Yeah, the whole context is not what Mr. only said, right? Full context fact is God needs us, right? Since he needs us, I didn't ask to be born. Okay, right? You're not going to Webster's 8th definition. Okay, right? But I'm pointing out, right? You're saying that God needs us, and since he needs us, I didn't ask to be born. Okay, so that goes against the Bishop Pirke Avos, says you're born against your will anyway. Okay, right? But the fact that he says God needs us, there are sources in Hasidus and Kabbalah that say that. At some level, God needs us. Yeah? There are big people who defended him. I'm not going to say not, that have defended him. Right? But there are sources. If you were to ask me personally, I wouldn't be quoting these sources according to Hasidus or Kabbalah. Because no one's holding by it. So, why go to Webster's 8th definition? Right? 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 He said other things as well. I agree. Right? Come on, you think, Ganem's gonna, you think it's real fire? I think there's real fire. Yeah, I understand. There are other things he said. I'm only talking about this one aspect. There's one aspect where he said that God needs us. There are sources in Kabbalah and Chassidus. There are sources like that, but he said other things, not just that. That's the main thing. They said there's no reward and punishment. That's a problem. That's a serious problem also, right? But that wasn't the only thing. They're harping on that, but that's not the only thing. That's not the only thing. But right, you can't punish us. Yeah, it's a problem. He said a lot of things. He said a lot of things that are problematic. I agree. I agree. Yeah, someone asked the person they're giving partners in them, right? The works of learning of Kiruv. What exactly does that mean? In other words, they have to, let's say, write books, or some people would say, giving a Kiruv is the best thing. Why? Because if they help make someone religious, you get all their mitzvahs. you get a portion of their mitzvahs. That's true. Right? I'm not going to deny that. That's true. That's not the only thing to give to. I mean, yeah, that is true though. Exponentially, you get more mitzvahs, right? Because if someone, if someone, let's say, is a big kiruv person, right? They're doing outreach, very good. They make someone religious. You're help supporting them, so you get a portion of the people that make religious. They catch 22 if they go off. You get penalized for that also. But in general, let's say, right? In general, let's say you're right. You're 100% right. Right? You get a portion of that. Right? So learning, so people would say if you had a choice, support a big rabbinic scholar or a kiruv organization. They'll say kiruv organization, right? Obviously they're biased, but why would they say kiruv organization? Because they're making people religious. And if they're making people religious, let's say, then they get a portion of all their mitzvahs. Every last mitzvah they do, they get a portion. You're helping support that. You get that exponentially all the time. It's a greater dividend, right? It's a greater dividend. Now, if you're helping support a rabbinic scholar, and that rabbinic scholar, let's say, is learning, okay, you only get his mitzvahs. You only get his learning, let's say. There you're getting all the mitzvahs they do. That's a big difference. Yeah, that's a big difference. You can take something correct and then make up stuff as heresy to attach it. Yeah. Yeah. There are problems with things he said. I agree. Again, there are sources in Kabbalah and Chassidus to say, that. Let's say that God doesn't need us. Okay. 100%. 100%. Then you can say, well, that's not being born. That's not to be born. It's a different issue. That's a different issue. Right? Mishna Pirke Avos said. But we don't have a choice. We always say, you're born against Shua, you die against Shua. I didn't have to be born. That's not my choice. That's not my choice. God puts the soul, according to Kabbalah and other things, God put the soul in the body. And he has to convince the soul to go in the body. He has to convince the soul to go in the body. 100%. That's what he does. So you're right on that aspect to say, well, and that's to be born. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. Definitely have a choice. Yeah. Any other questions? Let me see here. Getting late here. Someone here says, Fulton also provided the snails, right? For tzitzis, right? Whatever the chilazon was, some say it was a fish, some say it was what's it called? A snail, right? Whatever it is, that is true. Someone asked, what's a good rabbinic school in Massachusetts or in Maryland or others? Rabbinic school? There are yeshivas in Massachusetts, a few, I think. There's a what do you call it? I don't think there's a rabbinic school, not a rabbinic school, but there's school for, I think, married men learning full time in Boston that I know about. The one in Sharon, I'm not sure. That I have to check. Maryland, you got Ner Yisrael in Baltimore, Ner Yisrael Talmudic Academy. That's in Baltimore. Is there anything else I know about in Baltimore? That's the main one. That's the main one in Baltimore. That is it's a yeshiva and it's a rabbinical school also. They also have a rabbinical school there also. It's possible to get a visa to work in Israel, eventually work. Yeah, definitely possible to do that. It's probably better unless you convert a proper conversion, then come live here. You don't need a work visa. But if before a person converts, best way to come here is through a work visa. It's definitely through a work visa, I would say. Or if you come visit, you're here for 3 months, and then you can renew it again for 3 months, and then you probably have to go to Cyprus or go somewhere and then come back, right? Unless you get a work visa. Um, yeah, any other questions? Um, Someone says, what about for older women? Good question. Older women, where can they learn? I don't know. Good question. How can you find English speaking job in Israel? People do it. Mostly, I would say mostly online. Doesn't have to necessarily be online, but I would say mostly online. At the same time, I would say there are people. I know someone worked for. I know some people. Some have worked for a online real estate company. Other people have done medical billing. That's a common thing for women here. Done medical billing, I think. Um, and I would say high tech, but if you're not in the high tech, what other jobs are there? Good question. English, not sure. Not sure. Um, yeah, any other, let me see any other questions here. Someone asked, "What to do taxes in Israel or bookkeeping?" Yeah, that you could do. I definitely know of some companies that, are English speakers that do taxes. So that you'd be able to find here. And should be able to find here. Yeah, any other questions? I will mention one second. Just see if there are any other questions. I will mention anyone interested in setting up a Yisachar Zvulun relationship, i.e., you want to pay for my learning for people. So yeah, we can discuss it. Definitely can discuss it. Anyone who might be interested. Yeah. Any other questions? That's obviously, if you think my Torah learning is worth something. So then, that's another issue. But that person would get merit, when I learn in the morning and any classes I give, they get merit for that. So classes alone are, a lot during the week. Not to just mention learning, but whatever, other big plans coming up. So much, much, much bigger plans. So hopefully, you know, um, definitely, whatever. Like I said, it's gonna, things are gonna explode very shortly. So hopefully very shortly, but in a massive, massive way. So, that will get people's merits increased. I'm not gonna say exponentially. It's gonna explode, right? If that influences, other people, they get merit in that also. You're talking about, you'd be talking about tens of thousands. You'd be talking about millions, right? Not revealing what it is yet, but it's still working on it. But I mean, it should be coming out soon, relatively soon. So we'll see where that goes. Also, um, um, yeah. So anybody interested in that type of relationship, send me an email. We can set up a time to speak and work out those details. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone else says, "Can we talk about it?" Sure. Right. I think I'm gonna make a clone of myself so he can speak to like my evil twin, work it out time wise. But yeah, like I said, shoot me an email. Anyone who might be interested in work out a time to speak. Not gonna be a long conversation, but whatever. We can definitely work out a time for that. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna sign out. I just every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, You can find me on Facebook, Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com. Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the Q&As, Ethics for Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. Wish everyone a good middle of the day.